Testing interpretation.
Hola, hola a todos, sean muy
Hello, everyone.
bienvenidos. Tenemos
Maybe most welcome. We have some brief messages before we formally begin the session.
Hoy con el primer mensaje.
Today, with the first
Antes de
message,
comenzar, les recordamos que contamos con
before we
interpretación
begin,
simultánea en
please
español
be
e
mindful that we
inglés
have simultaneous
durante esta
interpretation
sesión.
for English and Spanish.
Para activarla, por favor,
To activate it, please
el icono de
click on the
interpretación
little globe button
en la
on
barra
the
inferior
bottom
de Zoom y seleccionen el
of your
idioma que
screens
prefieran
and pick
escuchar,
the language you want
inglés
to
o
hear,
español.
Spanish
Before
or
we get
English.
started, we would like to remind everyone that we do have simultaneous interpretation. So in order to activate this, if you could please go to the toolbar at the bottom of your Zoom page, and you need to select the language that you prefer, English or Spanish. I will now carry on entirely in Spanish. Nos complace invitarles
We
al
are
Cerrito
pleased to
Forum
invite you
2026,
to Cerrito
que
Forum
se realizará del
2026.
12 al
That will be carried
16
out
de
from
octubre de
October
este año.
12 to 16 of
Este
this year.
encuentro reunirá
This
a
meeting will
socios,
gather
aliados y
partners,
referentes de
allies,
la Red Global del
and
Semáforo
key
para
people from
compartir
the Poverty Spotlight to
fortalecer
share
la
learnings,
colaboración,
strengthen
explorar
collaboration,
estrategias
and
que impulsan la
explore
sostenibilidad,
strategies to encourage
innovación
sustainability,
y la
innovation,
expansión del
and the
programa
expansion
del
of the
semáforo.
program.
Durante esta edición del Cerrito Forum,
During
reflexionaremos
this
sobre el
version,
concepto del
we will
florecimiento
focus
y
on
cómo las personas, las
flourishing and
organizaciones
how
y las comunidades
organizations and
pueden vivir
communities
con
can
propósito,
live with
tomar
purpose,
decisiones informadas
can make
y construir
well
activamente el
informed
futuro que
decisions and
desean.
actively build the
La agenda
future they
incluirá
want.
sesiones de
The agenda
trabajo,
will
espacios de
include work
intercambio,
sessions,
networking
exchange
y talleres
spaces,
de
networking, and
Más
field
adelante
experiences.
compartiremos la agenda
Further
detallada
along, we will
con
share the
las
detailed
personas
agenda
confirmadas.
with the people that have confirmed.
Ahora sí, muy buenos días, muy buenas tardes,
Good
muy buenas
morning, good
noches,
afternoon, good
dependiendo
evening,
del
wherever you
horario que
are.
nos acompañen. Mi nombre es Julia Corbalán, soy
My
gerente
name is
global de
Julia
operaciones
Corbalán.
del
I'm manager of
semáforo
global
Poverty
operations of the
Stoplight,
Poverty
y un
Stoplight,
verdadero placer
and it's a real
darles la
pleasure
bienvenida y con
to
esta
welcome you
conversación, con esta
with
sesión
this
inicial,
conversation, with this initial
declarar
session to
oficialmente
declare
inaugurada la Poverty Stoplight
the Poverty
Innovation Week
Stoplight Innovation
2026,
Week
la semana de
formally open,
innovación del semáforo.
the
Durante los próximos
Innovation
días,
Week. During the next weeks, we will
innovadores,
gather
investigadores,
innovators,
voluntarios,
researchers, community
empresas,
leaders,
gobiernos, organizaciones de todo el
businesses,
mundo
governments, and
para
organizations
compartir
from
ideas,
around the world to share
experiencias
ideas,
y
experiences,
nuevas formas de
and new
acelerar
ways
la
of
eliminación de la pobreza.
accelerating the
No
elimination of
podríamos
poverty.
imaginar un mejor
We couldn't
inicio
imagine
que
a
una
better
conversación con el Dr.
start
Martín Burt,
than a conversation with
fundador,
Dr. Martin Burt, who is
creador
the
e
founder,
impulsor de
creator,
Fundación Paraguaya
and
y
encourager of
alianza
Fundación
para el
Paraguaya,
diseño de eliminación
and the
de la pobreza,
creator
the
of the
Poverty
Poverty
Stoplight. Una
Stoplight,
innovación social que ve
a
acompañada
social
a cientos
innovation
de miles de
that has
organizaciones
supported
en más
hundreds of
de
thousands of
63
organizations in
países
over
en el mundo
63
entero.
countries in the world.
Muchos de ustedes ya conocen la trayectoria de
Many of
Martín,
you
así
know
que en
Martin,
lugar de leer su biografía
so instead of
completa,
reading his
les
bio,
invito a
his full
echar
bio,
un vistazo
I
al slide que
invite you
estamos
to
proyectando ahora
look at the
mismo,
slide that
donde
we're sharing right
resume
now,
en muy pocas
which has a
palabras
summary in very few
la
words
trayectoria, perdón, de
of
Martín, así como también
Martin's
de la persona
life
que lo
and
estará entrevistando.
legacy. as well as mine. And to go through this initial session, we are with a dear friend and colleague, Rodrigo París. He's a journalist, communicator, agent for social change, and a big voice in the Latin American ecosystem for innovation, social innovation, and also for social impact. Rodrigo, we are in your hands. The floor is yours, and thank you so much for being with us.
Julia, muy buenos días, tardes y noches.
Good morning, Julia, or good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are listening this from.
Para mí también
To this
es
from.
un honor estar acá con
For me, it's also an honor to be here with you in this first session of the Innovation Week for the Stoplight. And it's a privilege, without a doubt, to be able to chat with Martin, who we know and love and admire, but in my personal case, I have a connection, a professional connection with him, but also a friendly one of over a decade. So it's always nice to meet colleagues, friends, and it's nice to meet people we admire and we are inspired by mentors, guides, and lights. That's something incredible. So it's an honor, and I'm thankful, and well, all the best for the week. And I'm sure we'll have conversations that will enrich us and connections, questions, answers that are necessary for these times that we are living in and all the challenges that we have, those that want a better world and many better worlds. So happy to be here, Martin. It's a real pleasure that our conversation, as we have had many others, in the case of today, it can be public and open, and it can have the beautiful presence of so many people that we like and that follow us and follow the foundation. And well, I wanted to start with a question, which is, after everything we have seen in our lives, in your life, and what you have achieved, I did want to go behind, rewind a bit, and ask you, what do you feel, or what is the click for the life of a normal human and for a life to end up being focused and literally invested in improving society in Paraguay, in Latin America, and now in 63 countries of the world? Where do you click from being a common citizen, thinking about you and your family, to be a person who really wants change in the world? Hi, Rodrigo. I also see Humberto from Puerto Rico, Karen from Brazil. I see Lucas from Argentina. Wendy just arrived from Philippines.
Hello, everybody. Hola. Estamos felices de ver este tema.
We are so happy to see this. And Rodrigo, in the world, there's always been interest in improving the life of others because it brings you energy. To think about yourself drains you, but think about others fills you with energy. So I think it's something we share, most of us. Mothers are made having a special interest in their communities and in their families. But I want to say thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Hello, everybody. So happy
Hi.
to be here with you. And it's about technology and innovation. Es sobre la tecnología y la innovación. Hace 15 años,
15 years ago, Hewlett-Packard, together with Paul Ellickstad, brought us the possibility of setting up an app because we started the stoplight on paper. And It was beautiful, but it was on paper. And with the app that HP helped us build, it went from something that took half an hour to 5 minutes. And a social worker can have all the information she needs from 200 or 500 families on her phone and not on a bag, on a heavy bag full of binders. Now we are before a surprise that we didn't think was possible 15 years ago, which is AI. And the millionaires are talking about how to use technology or AI for their own benefit. But we are seeing how we can use AI or put AI to use in the Brazilian favelas or for the single moms in Brazil or in Argentina or in England. I can see Rob Webb there. Congratulations, Rob Webb. So that's our challenge. How can we use AI? That's just me. He's speaking in English now. Nothing will change, but that is the challenge. I see that Karen is saying, I don't know what you're thinking, Karen, but that is the challenge, a beautiful challenge. And I think Lucas here from Argentina is thinking, they have a huge challenge in Argentina. It's huge. How to leave this and liberate, so to speak, the families. So that's my message, Gio Rodrigo. And we will talk about the present and the future and the difficult things that we have in front of us. Absolutely, Martin. And what you are mentioning, the big debate that you're putting on the table of AI and how to put it at the service of the communities, of those that are vulnerable, and of the people we serve, who are heroes and heroines in different parts of the world. And many scientists say there are things that AI cannot do that we still can do. Our values, our criteria, the humanities at the center. That technology has been able to take over. What are the first things or signs that you are seeing that we can not only support ourselves on AI, but us as humans, how can we keep a certain distance from technology so that decisions and our work and interventions can continue placing the human at the center of the equation? The other day I had a call with an Israeli company, and they are telling me that the problem with AI is that it feeds on information that is pre-existing on the networks, on the web. But the problem of the poor people, so to speak, in the poor countries is not in the information is not online. So how do we manage to have the information of the families from India or Colombia or Brazil or the Philippines? How do we get that information? How do we make that information available for the families to be able to say, aha, this is the way how a Filipino family solved their problem. How interesting what the Argentinians are doing, or look at what the South Africans are doing. That information is not available yet. So that is a question that I have. How do we preserve the privacy? How do we save the rights of the families? How do we make it so that the solutions that we have, that certain families have already found, can be shared? We know that the governments won't be able to solve this alone. They won't be able to solve this alone, nor will the companies alone, the businesses. But we know that if we work with the families, we can move forward. So that is a challenge, Rodrigo. Well, now that you speak about how our challenges not only depend on us, but also on cooperation with the private sector with governments, multilaterals, with the same communities, families, and people. A question. Who are your mentors? Who do you connect with to connect, to improve, and answer these dilemmas and these relevant issues nowadays? Who nourishes you every day? Is there a name or is there many names? In my personal case, I'm lucky to live in a small nation, so family. In my case, it's easy to gather and meet my family. They are my network, but I have friends in many countries, and I have been inspired by priests, by Jesuit priests, by rugby coaches, by university professors, and obviously, I have a work team. Luis Fernando Sanabria, my closest partner, we've been working many years together, but also this weekend, we visited the north of Paraguay. There's amazing poverty. We found teenage girls with no clothes. No clothes. And it's cold. But we did find also businessmen or business people who are changing the way they are working with the communities, which is exemplary. So we have beautiful examples in all the world, in Paraguay, and all the world that are very inspiring. But we also have a reminder that there's a lot of work ahead and many things to be done. Without a doubt, after COVID, many things came to light, many things that we didn't want to see. Perhaps we were willfully blind, and there was an increase in the inequalities, and there were signs of vulnerability in many parts. It seems that we're going backwards in many things. So what messages can you give us? Not only what you saw in Paraguay this weekend that was dramatic, but also this hope and these positive signs. Yes, there's a contrast. It seems that everything is bad, but there are some achievements that are huge. So we can believe in that everything that we're doing is making sense, and we are winning this battle against poverty. How do you see these two things? I'm concerned because the World Bank, the banks, regional banks, UN are still thinking with logic from 10, 20, 30 years ago. There's an opportunity now in technology of revisiting all our pre-concepts. The different mindset, and that is what worries me, because I see that the establishment is still thinking the same, and the opportunities that may arise, and the deficit there is in technology in the hands of the mother that lives in a small neighborhood of Argentina or in a favela of Brazil or a township of South Africa. We're in the home of an immigrant in the UK. But that's a beautiful challenge. That's a beautiful challenge. And technology now allows us to go again to the places that are pre-existing and rethink. But again, with technology, we are having daily reports of poverty elimination. I receive daily reports on how many indicators have gone from yellow to green or red to yellow up to date. So that information is new. Normally, governments measure poverty once a year, But now we can have a daily report of how much is left and where we are. So I'm very enthused. And I want to thank everyone who is on this call today. I see that there are some open chats. I don't know how we're going to manage that. I see Gigi Cavalieri. I don't know if Gigi is in Sao Paulo or if she's in Australia. Gemisi, Akin Trinade. There's many questions and comments.
We have to work in a more organized way, yes, etc. Así que no sé cómo vamos a hacer.
I don't know how we will do this, Rodrigo. Will we answer questions? We have Esma from Tunisia as well. I think we have a space for everyone. In a few minutes, we'll have some time for them to be able to speak to you and be able to have the privilege that I am having so that they can talk directly. We always have from where we are with philanthropy and social connection with people in so many countries. And sometimes we wonder, well, who's Martin? Who's the person, the dad, the granddad, who is he in his more private area in his home? And I wanted to get close to that world that is connected with what you do, but that we're not so close with, many of us, so we don't have to have so many information from, and just ask you in this more private role, your wife, your children, your grandkids, because for us who live in this world of service to others, how do you find a balance between this time that you give? You travel the world, work with the communities, you meet with so many institutions. How do you look after your own nest, your own wife, and enjoy your family? How do you manage this balance? And what have you learned there? What tips can you give us for those that, without a doubt, have this constant challenge? So I want to start there to get closer to the less philanthropic Martin and the more human Martin. In the US, they always talk about work-life balance, and that's the problem of the Americans. We don't have that problem. In our countries, we have a lot of life and less work in Paraguay. But I see my friend Salvador Muñoz here. He works with the Spanish cooperation in Cuba. Hi, and Aisha from Morocco. Hello, Aisha. Can we talk about football or soccer? We have all been, we lost against France, so it was painful this weekend. But okay, about families, and the less secrets, the better. So no secrets, all the better. Everybody needs to know everything, and there's a lot of trust. That's what we have to maintain. A lot of trust. We have to build trust and show the vulnerabilities that we have. So that would be the issue for me. Thank you. I value and treasure this, and I want to share with everyone that the first time I met Martin personally, after having worked with him virtually in Asunción in 2014, he said, speaking about personal issues and how important our partners are, our life partners, and this trust and this transparency that you're mentioning. Martin said, well, where is your girlfriend or your wife? And I said, well, I have a girlfriend. I lived in Bogota and she lived in Mexico. And he said, why is she in Mexico? Why is she, I mean, if she's your girlfriend and you love her, why is she so far away? And I said, well, it's a distance, long distance relationship, and we have been doing this. And he said, yeah, it's all good, but you have to be close, you have to be next to the person you love. And thanks to your advice, Martin, which I still treasure, I decided to propose to my wife, my now wife, and we got married and we're together. So we closed the gap, and obviously our best allies are our spouses. So I want to publicly thank you, because your message and your advice was very strong, and I read it well, and I saw it with the clarity that so you were like an angel for me with this advice. And a month ago we celebrated our 10-year anniversary. You're living in Colombia or Mexico? We both live in Colombia because she wanted to come to Colombia. She said, I've never been in the south of the continent. I said, she said, I want to come closer to a country like Colombia.
Yo estuve con la gente del Cerrito Forum el año pasado, a lo cual Julia nos ha invitado nuevamente para
Last year we were Cerrito Forum.
Y tuvimos la
Julia's invited us for this year.
De
we had the privilege and the joy
de tu casa,
of going into your home in Asunción.
Así que ver,
So
digamos, no es solamente un tema
it's
virtual,
not just
sino real,
virtual, but it's real.
Hacia adentro, ¿no? Con tu familia, con tus
what you have done with your
tienes,
family,
que es
with
un
your
tesoro. Y
grandkids,
sin lugar a dudas el trabajo social pues es un
and the
reflejo
social work is a
de esa
reflection
belleza y cuantía
of the beauty
privado. Y Julia
of your private life.
compartía, y los invito pues a un poco a ir
Julia
a esos
shared,
caminos
and I
tan lindos
encourage you to
de
go
tu
to those beautiful
afición y de tu gusto por
spaces
la
of
gastronomía y por la cocina.
your love
Uno
for
se imagina
cooking,
a un Martín
and you can.
no solamente haciendo recetas de pobreza, sino haciendo recetas
So Martin does recipes
para
for poverty, but also for good food.
Tanto disfrutas, qué tanto tiempo tienes,
How much time do you have,
en ese
and how much
gusto
do you
por estar
enjoy
en la cocina, por preparar, por hacer, por
cooking
invitar a tus colegas, a tus
cooking
cercanos,
and for
a
your
que
colleagues,
pongan
for your
ingredientes?
friends?
¿Cómo se conecta esa
How is this love of
gastronómica
cooking
con la culinaria social, ¿no?
connected with
ponemos
the
ingredientes
social
para que
part?
el semáforo y para que
How
muchas
do
otras
we
cosas funcione mejor? ¿Cómo
how
va
do we
eso de la
make
mano?
this so?
La idea es cocinar en grupo
The idea
y
is
leer poesía.
cooking together and reading
Los que no cocinan
poetry.
leen poesía y
The ones who are not
pasarla
cooking
bien, ¿verdad?
read poetry,
Pasarla bien. A mí, yo preparo
and we have
la
a good
comida,
time.
pero
I
se me
prepare the
critica
food,
mucho. Se
but
me
I'm
critica
criticized.
mucho. El otro día estuve haciendo comida india, traje algunas
I was
cosas de
cooking Indian food the other day. I brought some curry powders from South Africa,
le falta picante.
and there's like, no, it's not spicy enough. The others will say, yes, it's too spicy. So everybody has an opinion. I'm not an expert.
Me sale bien, a pesar de que
But paella, I do good paellas. Even though Salvador Muñoz, my Spanish friend, makes a better paella than me. He's the best cook. The idea is to have a good time and to share, because if you're alone, it's not worth it.
Pero volviendo al tema, el tema
But going back to how can we have a community of learning? Nobody has a magic wand. Nobody has a crystal ball. Everybody needs to listen to know what's happening, what their friends in Argentina are doing, our friends in Morocco, our friends in Tunisia, our friends from Newcastle. We have friends in Chicago. What's going on over there? Because
generalizada, ¿no? Así que ese es el tema, Rodrigo.
En ese punto, ¿qué tanto pesa
on this point,
en la fundación?
How
Digamos,
much
trabajo de escritorio, de
does this
recopilación de
desk work,
información, de lectura, de poesía,
reading poetry, and
¿Cómo hay esa combinación tan necesaria? ¿Cómo lo hacen ustedes?
this combination? How do you do this?
La realidad,
The reality,
que nos contabas hace poco
the naked woman you were mentioning in the north of Paraguay, and the desk work. How does this?
Lo más posible, y ese es un desafío para todos nosotros. Estamos
The most possible, that's a challenge that we have. We have a lot of office work that is hard for us to go into the field, but it is very important to go and talk with the ladies to remind them how are they living the lack of education. As a because of Coca-Cola Foundation, we are working on the poorest neighborhood in Paraguay, and our partners from Coca-Cola are very poor. The ones who distribute the Coca-Cola in the neighborhood, they do not have financial education or family budget. They do not have diversified incomes. So they are into a vulnerability that is not good for family or not even for the Coca-Cola companies. So how can we work with the private companies? And we have the people here from Polaris, Gigi Cavalieri, Karen, how we can truly take advantage of this positive energy from the private sector and the companies to work together with the private sector, because these are the stakeholder capitalisms. We are all here together, but it's not only a social responsibility from the business area, but it's a issue with the same goals to increase the productivity in the whole world, right? Yes, they are looking at partnership, visits into country 63 now. You were at the north of Paraguay, but you are a traveler, and there is thousands of histories. Perhaps I have on my head. Do you have an encounter or a history that was a milestone for you that you can remind to us and share with us about the path that you have been going? I was in North Carolina, USA, and a cold city, Winston-Salem, where they do the cigarettes. I was gathering with some Afro-American leaders for a very humble population, and through a School of Social Work from the Faculty of Social Work from the University of North Carolina, they performed the stoplight to that community, and they were explaining to me, the Afro-American leaders, they didn't know that there was a 90% of food insecurity in that poor neighborhood of North Carolina. And I say, how 90% of food insecurity? I mean, you're all crazy in USA, yes. And you didn't know that? No, they said. And how? And they never asked to the families about that. With the leaders from this Afro-American community, we were representing the community. We do some claims and protests to the government, but we does not know the personal situation of each family. So we're rolling out. So sometimes what happens with the community leaders, because they don't have the information of methodology, they are not aware of what is going on inside the houses. So we can see the challenges, the opportunities, because if we know that into a community with 300 families or 600 families, there is 70% of food insecurity, we can start working with the food banks or solving that situation. But if anyone knows or is aware about that information and the families are isolated, this is something that truly hits me from the situation in countries like we can say there are rich or very well-developed countries, but as well they have suffered into their houses and nobody is aware of that situation. So the stoplight is a tool for the families to have the awareness, and the leaders have the information of what is going on. For example, there are places that are families without water. When you are seeing all these challenges, and I want to congratulate as well, you are celebrating 40 years of the foundation the last year. It's a truly bad. When you have a shortage of energy or when you are decreasing your energy, how do you maintain this rhythm? And the whole team of the foundation and us that are around them, we see then that you have a tsunami of energy. But when this energy goes down, how do you handle this? how you maintain that rhythm that is so inspiring. Something it is, we are not in love of the stoplight. We are in love of the problem, the opportunity. That the stoplight, poverty stoplight is not the last call in the desert. You're going to see, and this week we're going to see how to improve and find new technologies. The technology available today is a basic technology, but we do not have yet the AI. I mean, there is AI, but I mean, people has energy. The human being comes to the world with an internal energy that is called a spirit. So when we are talking about the entrepreneur spirit, is 50% entrepreneur and 50% spirit. The will to live of the human being. In poor family, this is crushed, but our work is to release this trapped energy that are into the human beings. So as I said at the beginning, the positive energy is coming from the people, because if the poverty stoplight allows that people can count their green points. Not only in a family with 7 privation or 5 privation or reds, and qualify these people for that count of problems that they have. No one should allow the family to tell us their blessing, because if we forget about that, we are a failure as a human being, and that is not true.
Siguiendo en esta conversación que
yes, continue with this conversation that is moving forward, and every minute with you, Martin, is a pleasure. After enjoying your book, that is something that you cannot miss to read, there is a new project of this quality that you have on your hands. Would you like to give us these novelties or news? If there is something around your head on your computer? Yes, we are working with Larry Reid. He's an American hero that worked a lot of time in Africa. Sorry, the connection is missed. And he's working in the United States. We are talking to write. Connection is missing. So we are having problem with the welfare, with the government support system that sometimes decrease the incentives to overcome poverty. So how we can solve this problem? We're thinking about doing something with Larry Reid to move out from the 14th state of the United States to the whole 50 states. So this is a beautiful, beautiful challenge, and the office in United States is called Drive Life, and the stoplight is called Aspire. So every country changed the name of the stoplight, because in the United States, they just not like the name Poverty Stoplight, so they don't like our name. Okay, great, doesn't matter. Every country can choose. I don't know what the Argentinian people said about this. Well, many of these experience from these new things that you're sharing with us, this energy that you are putting into this project, and talking about the books, the literature, poetry, because where does this love for poetry comes to your life? What is your advice that you have to come closer into the poesy to continue doing this social poetry? I mean, you have like a poet life. You're in love of the stuff. Well, my name is Martin. So there is Argentinian poetry that is called Costerna. When I was a kid, they read me poetry, and I'm in love with that. So we always read poetry loud here in my house to laugh of ourselves, because you don't need to take so seriously life or anything. Well, as well in seminars, workshop, you invite people to read a poetry and break the ice, to connect differently. Something that we can say it is far away from our entrepreneur life and the social ecosystem, but you're rescuing this and you value and you defend not only being to be in poetry or social change. Do you remember the movie Il Postino? It's a movie about Pablo Neruda, that was a communist Marxist that lived in Italy, and he received a royalty from their book sale. And Postino showed a letter to him. He showed him a poetry, a letter that he wrote to their girlfriend with a poetry of Pablo Neruda that was exiled, and he put his name under there. And Pablo Neruda said, "This is copyright, this is private property. You cannot steal the work from other person." And Postino said to Pablo Neruda, he was a communist, and he said, poetry is not from the ones who possess, but the one who work into the poetry. So the land belongs to the workers. So this is something extraordinary. And the poetry belongs for the one who needs, not for the one who writes. Okay, that's laughing of ourselves and to laugh from ourselves, hear other people inspire. Have you write poetry to your wife? I used to write poetry before and knowing my wife, but when I get married with her, my inspiration go away. I don't know what happened. But we truly read together, and every night we end the day reading something. But we're going to talk about what Karen is doing from the Polaris Institute. I think it's going to be more interesting. No, it's great to hear you, Martin, and I think that for us to see the human being, the husband, the person behind the leader, the entrepreneur, the director, president, founder of the Fundación Paraguaya, I think that find you and get to know you with these sensibilities and small details that are fundamental. This makes us closer to you, Martin. And I think that for all of us, we have some coincidence and inspiration seeing you. So thank you very much to open these spaces of conversation, to talk about more intimate topics, perhaps unknown and for the public. But I think that we have a few minutes to open the space for the participants. And before closing, I would like to ask you, Martin, into these global challenges that we see, which one are the one that is most concerning for you? I mean, there is optimism, there are hope, achievement, but the democracy is in crisis. Into the government's inequality, climate change, there is like a polar crisis. I don't want to focus in the negative things, but we have a big elephant, and perhaps you said in the next 2 or 10 years, we need to pay attention to this situation because it could be a negative part of our reform. So there's something that truly concerns you or worry beyond the normal challenges that we're facing into the social entrepreneurship. Well, I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about the suffering from the Venezuelan population, the suffering of the migrants. And a friend from Europe was telling to me that the first question or comment that African immigrants that arrived to Lampedusa, the south of Italy, the question is, what's the Wi-Fi? Why? Because he needs to communicate with their cousin that are in Frankfurt. So the poor immigrant that arrives to the United States or Europe, they're coming with a lot of strength. They're coming with knowledge, labor experience, and there is a lot of people who truly needs, for example, need someone to take care of their elder population, and there is a grandmother who needs to change their diapers, to bath them, to feed like a baby. So there is a lot of people in the Gulf of Italy that is ready to go and work for these people. So the Poverty Stoplight can combine the offer and the demand of jobs. So we need to treat the immigrants like people that comes to support the country and have the knowledge and the will to work, and not only a problem. We can see them as a solution. I think that Spain, if I'm not wrong, they have the great idea to how to incorporate immigrants. I wish that we can have more love towards them, because the immigrant has the moral obligation to travel. They cannot stay if they have family. So that's my idea. How can we show to the Europeans and the North Americans that these immigrants are coming with solutions and not problems? But I hope that the Poverty Stoplight could provide the government like a wild solution, a huge moment to understand that they have abilities. And from Paraguay, for example, the nurses go all to Italy to work because there is a need nurses in Italy, so they are immigrating to Italy. And so they send the money to Paraguay, and that's an exchange. So thank you for this opportunity, dear Rodrigo. Thank you very much. I want to talk with Jemisi and Ana Serra, who is drinking their mate. Luca as well is drinking their mate.
Gracias, Rodrigo.
Thank you, Rodrigo. Thank you, Martin. People are asking questions, so I would like to read you every question. We have several of them. So I'm going to start with the first one that we received in the chat. And thank you, Wendy, that is into every detail of this event. How can AI help social workers to have this urgent support?
I don't know. We need to, how can AI, no sé, this is exactly the point. So we need to create a forum and preguntarle a la gente.
We need to create a forum and ask people, how can AI help us or help the social workers to work? Thank you, Martin. Susan Davis from Jusena said,
and she read it, I believe, and she's asking.
She is asking.
She's saying, my question is, are governments endorsing / engaging in the Poverty Stoplight process? If so, how did you convince them?
No, the governments are not engaging in the Poverty Stoplight. They are looking, but the governments are in a different logic. They of providing social protection. We have to go beyond social protection. And the welfare system and the social protection, they think that that is the latest, right? And we need to move further and deeper and ask the people, how are you? Instead of saying, you have these rights and I'm going to give you this money.
Gracias, Martín.
Thank you, Martin, our dear friend. from Puerto Rico. She's asking, we understand that people have the capacity to decisions that allow us to move forward from poverty, but as well we know that there are economical systems, institutions, and food system and health that so many times makes continue the poverty. From Puerto Rico, we are adopting the poverty stoplight for food security. So how we can achieve that the stoplight not only measure the life condition, but as well reveal the systematic barriers and activate the co-responsibilities between families, organization, and companies. So the stoplight has so much information. I mean, governments measure food security, food deserts, and food security, but they do not have the information for each family. So the structural barrier, we're talking with the food banks. The food banks are distributing food, but they do not ask families why you do not have food. They are not asking about that. They are distributing and they measure their job in kilos of food distributed, but they does not have 10 minutes to sit and ask the mother of the house what happened, how it comes that you do not have food. Is this a problem from public transportation? It is a problem of unemployment, and the technology and the poverty stoplight should open our heart to ask to these families what is going on inside their houses, inside the families, because the mother of the family needs to put the awareness to ask herself, who am I and where I am, and not only be a passive beneficiary for the social security programs and social protections. So I think that the social protection has a history and is very good, but we need to move deeper and further and ask to the families about this. And I hope that technology may help us to ask to the mother, why are you coming to the food bank? And the answer is because I do not have. The answer is not because I do not have food. No, she needs to move. We need to ask her, and it's a very beautiful and difficult challenge, but we need to change this paradigm. Thank you, Martin. We have over 75 people online with us. Is there any brave one that dare to open their microphone and make a live question to Martin?
Would you like to turn on your microphone and ask Martin a question before we continue with other questions in the chat? I see Lucas Recalde from Argentina. Vamos, Lucas, vamos.
We have Lucas from Argentina.
Con eso que hablabas, Martín.
Well, Martin, what are we living in Argentina? We are a group of businessmen. Something that we are finding is that the businessmen, for our companies, we are dictators. Why? Because everything that we need to do, they need to do it, taking away the bad structure of dictator. But when we need to apply the poverty stoplight, we need to do this from the NGO point of view, from the contention. So we need to do this optional for them to come and take the stoplight. I just want to mention you that companies, we need to change urgently about the paradigm to be on charge of this problematic that the stoplight present. From one side, we are dictators who can say, do this, and if you do not that, you're fired. And on the other hand, we have a tool that provide enterprises or companies wonderfully and allow for our people to see the realities, and us businessmen can help them to solve, and our collaborators that sometimes cannot work allow me to this, provide this tool to responsibilize. It does not mean that us companies need to be 100% in charge, but this gives the agency. We need to change this tool. We have these wonderful tools that make us think this parity, because we're discussing how the companies into our groups cannot be on charge of this. And I will call the development stoplight, because, well, we put the name of the stoplight, the family development, because when you start explaining everything that you have is a richest stoplight. So I've seen this. I have different experiments with very vulnerable employers. What breaks the paradigm and crash it is this colonization that we have done about what is the meaning of poverty. Do not blame only the state or the government or the society. The society is responsible. They build the poor ones. And when they do this stoplight, this is something that breaks. And there are people that have the access to this information and start a dialogue. So I am profoundly deeper appreciated, Martin, for this very good tool for the human development. Thank you, Lucas. Thank you for your energy. We have a question from North Africa, from Tunis.
When you know more about people's problems and suffering, and you can do nothing to help them. Creo que es una pregunta idónea para ir cerrando esta primera sesión de la Semana de Innovación. Martín, ¿qué le responde a
So this is the question.
Hello, Esma. Regards to all our friends from Tunisia. Yeah, 50% of my life is frustration, and the other 50% is happiness. Yes, of course. But this is why we're still working, and yeah, that is our challenge. That is why this week, can we use technology and innovation to bridge that gap? Podemos usar tecnología para resolver esta pregunta que dice Esma. ¿No te sientes frustrado?
So, as Esma said, are you feeling frustrated? Yes, I'm feeling frustrated, but the thing is to connect the offer and the demand. And I see Paul Ellison, the inventor of the stoplight technology, just screamed to us. I don't know if he is in Ireland or London.
In the hands of the social worker. ¿Cómo podemos utilizar la tecnología en las manos de la mamá? De la casa,
how we can use the technology in the hands of the mother, of the social worker, and not just how they're living. And I wish that when we have that information, should be to support the poor families and not to manipulate them and not to put them in more debt. So I think that we are reaching this point. We will continue working. I'm now going to Argentina again the next week. I hope that we can move forward in Argentina. That is a beautiful country. But we need to take this with some salt. We need to try to see all the World Cup matches. That's important as well. Now we are very sad in Paraguay. We're very sad in Paraguay for our elimination, but that's the life. Thank you, Martin. Now we're closing. We truly appreciate Rodrigo París for giving us a guide and get closer to Martin, the human Martin, the grandfather, the son. It's very nice to get to know another areas of Martin that always inspire us and challenge us to love the problems and not to diminish them. So we see the different facets of his leadership and bring us more questions. Thank you, Rodrigo. He's in Mexico. You have a hard night yesterday. So I think your wife is Mexican.
You played beautifully. I mean, you have a great team. That's football for you. I think a lot of the world is united by football, thank God. Profundamente gracias, Martín,
So thank you, Martín. Thank you for your leadership, for being the visible ahead of this, as our friends said, a global movement for the stoplight that we all control. And thank you very much to Lourdes Agüero. She is the responsible of the stoplight in the Fundación Paraguaya. And she heard everything, the great things for us, and try to make this community alive. So we wait for you. We have 2 sessions and 1 hour from now, and then we have the afternoon. Please join the next session. Thank you, Martín, Rodrigo.
Of course, Jessica Cantor, nothing would be possible without both of you. Gracias a todos. Nos vemos. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. See you. Bye-bye. See you in the next session.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Muchas gracias.
Gracias y felicidades.